right, well, welcome back to the It's Only Food podcast. I appreciate you listening. Be sure to follow, share, and leave a comment. Feel free to stalk me on social media. All of those links are listed below in my profile. I am Chef John Polite. I have a cooking show on YouTube called It's Only Food with Chef John Polite. Do me a favor and go check that out when you have some time. Today we are talking about a very sensitive topic, one that I found to be very heated on both sides when I was doing my research for the show prep. And that topic is tipping. I am hoping in this episode we can break it down and have a discussion in regard to how you, my listeners, feel about it. Like I said earlier, I'm on YouTube and I'm on SoundCloud. I know both of those platforms have an area where you can leave a comment. Please, at any time during this podcast, if you have a question, comment, or anything you'd like to opine on, be sure to type it into that comment section so we can have a discussion about it. I do answer all the comments. So let's start with tipping and what it is. Tipping or the word tips is an acronym for to ensure prompt service. And we see this in all kinds of different professions. You got your bellboys, your concierges, your servers in the food industry, baristas, taxi drivers, tour guides, casino dealers, pizza delivery people, caddies on the golf course, housekeepers, just to name a few. But since this is a food industry podcast, I'm going to be talking about the food service industry tipping, mostly in restaurants. And I may veer off into coffee shops and other facets if I get distracted, so please bear with me. History. I got a brief history of tipping here. Sorry, I don't have the name of the author for this, so I can give attribution, but this was on a couple of different websites, so I'm going to go ahead and read this. A brief history of tipping. The exact origins of tipping are unclear, but it possibly got its start in the late Middle Ages when wealthy estate owners would give a servant a few extra coins out of appreciation or compassion. By the Tudor era in Britain, tips were likely to be in the form of gratuities given to servants of the landed gentry by overnight guests, according to Carrie Seagrave's Tipping, an American Social History of Gratuities. By the 17th century, Seagrave says, such small tokens of appreciation were routine in commercial eating and drinking establishments throughout Europe. One bit of folklore is that tip is an acronym for to ensure promptitude. Americans who traveled in Europe imported the custom into the New World, but it was regarded as a European institution and mostly rejected in the U.S. as undemocratic. Gradually, however, tipping subsided in Europe and it flourished on this side of the Atlantic. Because of its origins, tipping has been suffused with issues of class, so much that other analysts argue that in the U.S. the custom is associated with slavery. That's largely because tipping's earliest American iterations were tied to train travel and to the Pullman Company in particular. Beginning in 1867, Pullman put newly freed slaves to work for almost no salary, forcing them to rely on the gratuities train passengers gave them for cheerfully performing the servile tasks that enabled those travelers to ride in what was then the height of luxury. Thus, Pullman established the template of a large, prosperous company, paying its employees substandard wages and asking its customers to voluntarily make up the difference. Critics of tipping say it's a system that effectively makes employees dependent on a highly mutable form of private charity. Pullman porters eventually improved their working conditions by establishing America's first black labor union in 1925, but to this day, tipping socio-political dimensions retain vestiges of its thorny past. All right, a lot of people have questions and observations about tipping. I'm just going to name a few of them. First one, of course, is how much do I tip? I think the threshold is 15%. You have to claim that when you audit your tickets each night in order to be anything over that or under that. I can't remember which is under the table, basically. So 15% I think is that threshold in order to, 15% of the total ticket cost, not tax, but the ticket cost. Globality, there's a lot of people from other cultures coming to this country to eat, tour, visit, live. They go out to eat, they don't have tipping in their culture, so they don't tip, then that might anger some people that work as servers in the industry because they're thinking they're getting burned. Who gets the tip? Now I know when I go out to eat with my wife, we go out to mostly, especially in chains, you'll see, after the hostess seats you, you're going to see somebody pouring your water, somebody taking your order, somebody bringing your food out, somebody bringing out the bus boys coming through. and another person brings you the check. I mean, you see probably 6 or 7 different people, and on a $40, $50 ticket, I'd like to throw down a $15, $20 bill, but who the heck's going to end up getting the money? Is it just going to be the waitress, or is it going to be everybody that was involved with the whole service that I received? Maybe they pool their tips at the end of the night and everybody gets a portion. Who knows? Tip jars, same thing. Everybody's going to get throwing money into that tip jar, and then at the end of the day, they kind of pool it up and divide it evenly. Or is it going to be the person that was at the counter making that decision? Is it a manager making the decision? Is it all equally divvied up, or is it, who knows? I don't know. This is what we're going to talk about. When you go out and get takeout, you call an order in, you go pick it up. Do you need to tip the person that hands you the bag of food? Work was involved. Somebody should get a tip, right? Okay. Negative points. Like I said, I don't think I did say this earlier, but in doing my research for this to get my, my show prep here, I was researching both sides of the issue, the negatives and the positives about this. And both sides, there was a lot of cherry-picked data and a lot of emotion. And I would say more so on the negative side of this. And the emotion, there wasn't a lot of footnotes or annotations or links of any ancillary information to support the case of why it was negative. It was just a lot of emotion. One example is it's exploitative, like we heard in the history. People that started businesses were building their fortunes on the backs of the workers. It smacks of Marxism to me. I've got an article that I'm posting actually on my Facebook page that I invite you to look at. It's broken down in detail. It's about 9-10 pages long, but it's got data on there that it's really hard to read, but it gives you a better flavor of what they're talking about with that. Another thing is that it pushes people into poverty and keeps them there. Again, there's no proof of that. I know people that I've worked in this industry for 40 years as a waiter, as a manager, as a barback, as a bartender, as a cook, dishwasher, busboy. I could say that 80% of the wait staff that I knew they already had day jobs. They were doing this mostly for the cash, working a couple days a week. They were lucky they got Friday and Saturday nights where they could bring home the cash. I don't think that being a server keeps you below the poverty line and the tipping keeps you there. I really don't see any substantial proof in that. I know it doesn't pay well, and I also know that there are people that are going to fight me on this. But like I said earlier, go ahead and leave a comment down there. I will answer you. Some people will tip a percentage no matter how satisfied they are. I got a story of my mom. I took her to her high school reunion back 10, 15 years ago, and we went from Minneapolis down to Green Bay area, Manitowoc, where she was from, and every place we stopped, she would figure out the total 15%. I don't even think it was 15, then I think it was 8, but she would figure it out to the penny and then leave the tip on the table or on the check, and then when I'd get her out to the car and put her in there and get her seatbelt on, then I'd run back in and start, throwing money around because I felt bad that they weren't getting any money. I'm a good tipper. My wife hates it. I am a good tipper, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've got a really soft spot in my heart for servers. I've worked in the food service industry, like I've said, for 40 years, and I believe that they're working their butts off, and I think that they should get tipped a little bit better than some people are doing. Now, the positive points, I don't want to go all day long on negative and positive, but I'm just going to do bullet points of about 3. So positive points, it's an under-the-table income. A lot of people are going in, like I said, to work Fridays or Saturday nights, possibly Sunday brunch, because they know they're going to get their butts kicked for 6 or 7 hours, but that money's going to roll in, and it's all claimed and under the table after that 15% threshold. Some people just like to make people happy too. Some people like to go in and work and take care of people, and that added bonus of getting a little bit of money on top of it's good. It makes you feel good. It's an incentive to provide good service. I know if you work your butt off for somebody, let me put it this way. If they de-incentivized it by taking tips away and giving the minimum wage higher to say 10, 15 bucks. God, I hope that never happens, but 10 or 15 bucks, then I don't think people are going to work as hard to take care of you because they're going to get paid well. They're just going to go in there and do their job, just like all they have to do is go out and bring you your water and your meal. They don't have to run for you or get you anything extra or check back and fill your coffee cup up, because they're going to get paid that minimum wage no matter what. That minimum wage right now, if you just tuned in, like I said, is 10 to 15 bucks. So is it really that incentive to work harder to make a good tip? So basic economics doesn't give us the answer due to the randomness of tipping. Our understanding of a free market economy is the agreement between the buyer and the seller. And I think if you raise a price as a seller to increase the income of an employee, the price may be too high for the buyer and they'll take their business elsewhere. And a lot of states want their legislatures to raise the minimum wage to $15. And this will eventually lead to automation, self-service, and a higher cost to the consumer. We all know that. That's the way economics work. Some people on the far left don't understand that. But we're seeing it already in McDonald's. People that are working at McDonald's have been out there for a couple of years now, fighting for the right for 15 or fight for 15 or whatever the cause is. I think it's, like I said, it smacks of Marxism. The poor little guy at the bottom, the big corporations taking advantage of them, whatever. You're going to lose your job eventually because of automation, or you're going to get self-service counters. I've seen them at Taco Bell now too, where you go in, you just walk in and you punch what you want, it gets sent to the kitchen guy brings it up to the counter, boom, you're there. That can happen. I know kiosks have that now in giant malls too. You pick a restaurant you want to eat at, you punch in your order, and it's ready to go when you walk in. Or if you want to sit down and punch it into the thing on the table too. You don't need a waitress anymore, basically. All right, so here's my bottom line. Being a server is a great part-time job because of the tips. In a profession that requires a substantial amount of character and work ethic, not everyone is cut out for this kind of work. Not everyone is going to tip what you think you deserve. Some shifts will be slow and you won't make money, and you'll have to deal with rude customers and coworkers. You know what the great thing is though? No one is forcing you to do this. There are always better options out there. So if you think the system is rigged or unfair, then you probably don't belong there in the first place. That's just my opinion. I'm coming at this from somebody that's worked in the industry for a long time and believe that I've seen some waitresses make some really good money. And if you're good at what you do, you're going to make those tips, even though there are a lot of jerks out there that don't tip. So that's where I come from. Like I said, comment box, leave something down there. I'll answer you if you want to argue about it or you want to have a discussion. I'm all for it. So thanks for listening to the It's Only Food podcast. Be sure to follow, share, and comment. Thanks again for listening. Take care of yourselves, and bye-bye.